In 2024 and 2025, the world started lining up, overnight, in the rain, by the thousands, for a little monster. It has a mouthful of jagged teeth and a wide, mischievous grin. There's no movie, no cartoon, no story. It serves no purpose at all. And yet, in Bangkok, in London, in Los Angeles, in Paris, grown adults camped outside stores just to get one. People paid thousands of dollars for a doll that fits in your palm. People fought over them in the aisles. People were mugged for them. In June 2025, at an auction in Beijing, a single life-sized version, mint green, over 4 feet tall, the only one of its kind in the world, sold for 1.08 million yuan, about $150,000.
108万，最后一次，恭喜我们买家，谢谢，绝对威力之，恭喜您收藏，谢谢，谢谢。
The company that makes it was worth, at its peak, around $20 billion. And almost no one in the West can tell you that company's name. It's called Pop Mart, and it is Chinese. This is not a story about a cute toy going viral, because when people queue for hours and pay thousands of dollars for a doll with no story attached to it, the real question is, what are they actually buying? They are not buying a toy. The year is 2010, Beijing. A young man from a small town in Henan province, Wang Ning, opens a variety store and calls it Pop Mart. Pop for popular, Mart for supermarket. It sells a little of everything: stationery, gadgets, imported toys, trinkets. It is the kind of shop that carries everything and specializes in nothing. For years, it struggles. Stores close, money is tight. But Wang Ning notices something strange buried in his own sales numbers. One category outsells everything else by a wide margin: a line of small blind box figurines called Sunny Angel. When customers buy them, they don't get to choose. They don't know which figure is sealed inside the box. The idea was not new. Japan had been selling capsule toys, gashapon, for decades. Hong Kong had a whole scene of collectible designer figures. What Wang Ning saw was how to fuse the two. Artist-designed characters sold in sealed, randomized boxes to adults with money to spend. In 2015, he makes a bet that will define the company. He stops selling the things people can choose, and he starts selling the things people cannot. To find the right characters, in 2016, he simply asks his own customers on Chinese social media, "Besides Sunny Angel, what do you love to collect?" One name comes back over and over: Molly, a pouty, big-eyed girl designed by a Hong Kong artist named Kenny Wong. That July, Pop Mart releases its first Molly blind box series, and the modern blind box craze is born. To understand everything that follows, you have to understand the blind box. One series, a fixed price, a sealed box identical to all the others. You do not know which figure is inside. And hidden somewhere in each series is a rare, secret edition, with odds that are often 1 in 144. Less than 1%. Opening that box is a tiny act of gambling. Pull a common figure and you feel the near miss. Pull the secret and you get a rush of reward. Pull one you already own and you reach for another box, and another, until the set is complete. In a sealed case of 12, you might find each of the regular figures once, but the secret hides far deeper. 1 in 72, sometimes 1 in 144. So the people who want it most buy the most boxes. And that is how a $10 toy gives birth to a resale market where the rare ones change hands for hundreds. Psychologists have a name for this: variable ratio reinforcement. It is the same mechanism that runs a slot machine, and the same one behind every pull to refresh on your phone. And notice who is buying. Not children, adults. For the price of a lunch, a grown professional gets a jolt of surprise, a small reward, a reason to collect. That was the real discovery. Not a toy for kids, but an affordable luxury for stressed adults. A habit priced low enough to repeat. So the blind box was never really selling you the figure. It was selling you the uncertainty in the half second before the box opens. The high of the win. The figure itself is just the receipt for the bet you placed. The other half of Pop Mart's engine is its characters, its intellectual property. But here is something worth stopping on. Molly has no story, and neither does Labubu. Disney sells narrative. Behind Mickey Mouse are 90 years of films. Pokémon and Hello Kitty sell the childhoods of entire generations. Pop Mart sells a character with no plot at all. What it sells instead is the character, plus the thrill of the gamble, plus the status of holding the one you pulled, and someone else didn't. It does not need you to love a story. It only needs you to want again, and to want the one nobody else has. And it was Molly that proved it could work. Through the late 2000s and 10s, those pouty-faced dolls turned a struggling Beijing shop into a company big enough to go public. Molly wrote the playbook, the artists, the series, the secret, the hunt. Labubu would simply run that same playbook on a global stage. Then there's how it reaches you. Stores in premium malls, vending machines, what the company calls robo-shops, in airports and subway stations, an app, limited drops, collaborations with artists and global brands. Scarcity here is not an accident of supply and demand. It is a designed feature of the product. The speculation on the resale market, the bragging inside collector communities, the compulsive rebuying to chase one secret figure. In most businesses, those would be side effects to manage. Here, they are the whole point. And then came the character that put the entire machine onto a global track, Labubu. Labubu was created by a Hong Kong artist named Ka-Sing Lung. Lung grew up in the Netherlands, steeped in Nordic folklore, its elves, its trolls, its forest spirits. In 2015, Labubu stepped out of his illustrated book series, The Monsters. A pointy-eared little creature with a mouthful of jagged teeth and a sly, knowing grin. Lung says it came from his childhood nightmares. Except in those dreams, the monsters were never threats. They were companions, fear and comfort, stitched onto the same face. In 2019, Lung partnered with Pop Mart to turn Labubu into a blind box, and the little monster was loaded into the machine built to manufacture want. For years, it sold quietly, an art toy favorite, known mostly to collectors. It took 5 years and one perfectly timed photograph to turn it into a global epidemic. And then, in 2024, it detonated. In April 2024, Lisa, of the K-pop group Blackpink, casually posted herself opening a Pop Mart box. That was the spark. She was soon photographed again and again with a Labubu clipped to her handbag. In the weeks after her post, sales across Southeast Asia jumped by nearly 30%. People named it the Labubu effect. Thailand went first and went furthest. Members of the royal family were seen with it. It became a genuine national obsession, stores selling out within minutes of opening. Resellers, Daigou, bought up stock across China and Singapore and carried it into Thailand by the suitcase, where a single box could fetch many times its price. Then came Rihanna, Kim Kardashian, David Beckham. Luxury handbags suddenly came with a small monster hanging from the strap. The charm had become the statement. A collector's toy had turned, almost overnight, into social currency. And so came the images the whole world saw. The overnight queues, the scalpers' prices, the shoving over the last box on the shelf, and that auction in Beijing where one of them sold for over 1 million yuan. And the numbers went vertical. Pop Mart had gone public in Hong Kong on December 11, 2020, raising $676 million and briefly crossing a valuation of 100 billion Hong Kong dollars. Then 2025 happened. Annual revenue exploded by about 185% to 37.1 billion yuan, around $5.4 billion. Net profit nearly quadrupled to roughly 12.8 billion yuan. Labubu alone sold more than 100 million units in a single year. Across all its characters, Pop Mart sold more than 400 million pieces. Overseas revenue grew by 400% in 1 year and came to make up nearly 40% of the entire company. And Wang Ning, the man with the failing variety store, briefly became one of the richest people in China. Here is the turn that most Western viewers never noticed. For decades, China was the world's toy factory. It manufactured for Disney, for Hasbro, for everyone else's characters, made in China, with someone else's intellectual property inside the box. Labubu inverted that completely. This time, it was a Chinese character that the West lined up for overnight, that the West resold at a markup, that the West raced to counterfeit. For the first time, the global supply chain of desire was running in the other direction. And the second half makes the point even sharper. When fakes flooded the market, people nicknamed them Labubu. It was Chinese customs cracking down, seizing nearly 50,000 counterfeit items in a single sweep. It was Chinese regulators and Chinese courts protecting the intellectual property. For 30 years, the image was of a China that made other people's things and copied other people's things. A small monster rewrote it. China had begun to export its own character, its own desire, and then to defend it as its own. It did all of this not by telling a story, but with a mechanism that looks a great deal like gambling. Because this machine has a shadow. The deepest controversy around the blind box is that it looks too much like gambling, especially for children. Parents complained their kids were spending allowances chasing figures they would never complete. As early as 2022, China's market regulators stepped in, restricting blind box sales to young children and requiring companies to disclose the odds. In 2025, state media called again for tighter oversight of the blind box frenzy, and Pop Mart shares fell on the news. When the pleasure of a business is built on the urge to bet one more time, it will always face the same uncomfortable question. Is this retail, or is it engineered compulsion? And there are 3 more cracks. The first is speculation. Once a doll becomes a trading asset, its price floats free of the doll itself. Bubbles inflate, and bubbles burst. The second is counterfeiting. The Labubu fakes erode the brand, and some were found to contain lead or to pose a choking hazard, triggering urgent safety warnings to parents. The third, and the most dangerous, is dependence. Today's Pop Mart leans heavily on one breakout character, Labubu, in exactly the way it once leaned on Molly. A trend can lift you to the sky, and a trend can forget you by next season. And the next season has already arrived. In August 2025, Pop Mart's share price peaked. By March 2026, it had fallen by roughly half, erasing about $33 billion in market value. Wang Ning's net worth dropped at one point by $2.7 billion. But the coldest signal is not in the share price. It's in the search box. Search interest for Labubu figurine fell from a level of 66 in August 2025 to 6 by March 2026. On the resale market, prices tumbled. In the first quarter of 2026, Pop Mart's revenue still grew by 75 to 80%. Staggering, but against the frenzy that came before, an unmistakable slowdown. In May, Morgan Stanley cut its forecast for the company's overseas growth, and the reason was blunt. Interest in Labubu on social media was fading. And Pop Mart's own response is the most revealing detail of all. It began urgently to spread its bets. Sales of another character, Skull Panda, more than doubled. Crybaby and Dimmu each roughly tripled. But none of them yet is a Labubu. And the costs were creeping in. Plastic, fabric, packaging, all rising faster than before, quietly pressing on the margins the frenzy had made look effortless. And then it did something it had not done in 15 years. It set out to give Labubu a story. The first Labubu film is now in script development. A character that began as a wordless face in a picture book is being handed the one thing it never had: a plot. An empire built on having no story is now racing to write one for its most famous face. In our first episode, the question about luck and coffee was this: how does a business survive when it loses the market's trust? Pop Mart's question is different and colder. When your product is the desire itself, the dopamine, the scarcity, the status, your empire lasts only as long as attention does. Mickey Mouse, Hello Kitty, Pokémon endure for decades because a story holds them up. A character with no story is held up by desire alone. And desire is the most fickle asset in all of business. Pop Mart built the most efficient machine ever made for manufacturing want. And the question it now has to answer is this: can a machine that sells wanting survive the day people stop wanting? It is writing a story for Labubu. It is betting on its next character, which tells you that it knows better than anyone that the frenzy will fade, and that it has to find the next reason for the world to get hooked before it does. This is not a story about something cute. It is a story about scarcity, about addiction, and about the price of desire. Welcome to Empire Motive. We look for the real motives behind business empires.